It is my honor to introduce Dr. Karen West, who will be introducing and presenting our speakers this afternoon. Dr. West received her undergraduate dental degree from the University of Louisville and in 1982. She then joined private practice and then joined the faculty there from 1990 to 2007. At that time, she was a clinical team leader, associate dean for clinical and academic affairs and public service division, and then she became the interim assistant dean for admissions and student affairs. Dr. West then left Louisville and became dean at the University of Las Vegas School of Dental Medicine. She remained there from 2007 until 2019. From there, she became the president and CEO of the American Dental Education Association, where she currently serves, and we're happy to have her here this afternoon to introduce our guest.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's a treat to be here with you today and to have such an esteemed group of dental educators and friends here with me. The pandemic has certainly curbed travel for all of us, and I'm so glad to have this opportunity to join you on this beautiful campus, even if I only came from across town. But at this time, when we are seeing such turmoil and pain around the world, it's especially a pleasure to be here to talk about something that lifts my spirits, a book that highlights and celebrates the achievement of a remarkable group of minority women leaders who broke down barriers and blazed new trails in oral health. Undaunted Trailblazers, Minority Women Leaders for Oral Health is a book about women who dared to dream, women who expected more of themselves and others, and women who didn't take no for an answer. For that alone, they deserve our applause and gratitude. Before I talk about the book itself, I'd like to tell you a little bit about its inception. In May 2019, Dr. Jeanne Sinkford spent a day in Washington, D.C. with two friends and colleagues, Dr. Shelia Price and Dr. Marilyn Woolfolk. Conversations during lunch and throughout the afternoon, particularly after a visit to the National Portrait Gallery, led to a discussion about minority women leaders in oral health. The main question of all the books and publications on leadership, where could one find a collective historical account of minority women leaders in oral health? That question led to a collaboration that culminated in the publication of this book. I don't know about you, but I take away a couple of things from that anecdote. First, never underestimate the creative power of a group of smart women meeting over lunch. And number two, Dr. Sinkford doesn't quite have the hang of retirement yet. She keeps going. But kidding aside, we are blessed because of all that she has done for dental education and all that she continues to do. In Undaunted Trailblazers, the authors share the compelling stories of 31 minority women leaders who broke through formidable barriers to thrive in a male-dominated profession and significantly advance the cause of oral health. These courageous oral health pioneers disrupted the norm with resilience, patience, and persistence. Their candid testimonies will motivate aspiring leaders and enlighten those who have the power and capacity to help minority women push beyond the glass ceiling to the upper echelon of leadership in any organization. I and others at ADEA found this book so powerful and meaningful that it served as an inspiration for one of our plenaries at our annual session this past March. In closing, I would like to note that this book is both a celebration and a call to action. More than ever, we need to honor and celebrate those minority women who forged new paths and defied both expectations and conventions. At the same time, we must recognize that there is more to do. One only has to turn on the evening news to see that racial injustice and gender inequality remain persistent and troubling challenges. In the dental education community, we must redouble our efforts to recruit historically underrepresented minority students and professionals. Undaunted Trailblazers reminds us of where we have come from and the road ahead. I encourage you to read it for inspiration and share it as a tool and template for how we can blaze new trails together. And I thank Dr. Sinkford, Price, and Woolfolk for their leadership and many contributions to dental education. Each of you is an inspiration to all of us.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is now my pleasure to introduce our panel. And we have Dr. Marilyn Woolfolk, Dr. Jeanne Sinkford, and Dr. Shelia Price. And our moderator is Dr. Hazel Harper. I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you so much, Dr. West. And I can't tell you what an honor it is to be with these three amazing women, undaunted, inspired, motivational, courageous. And we're going to take a lot away from you today because we're going to ask some questions, all right? First, Dr. Price, can you share with us what prompted the three of you ladies to come together and actually publish this book? How did that really happen?
Well, first of all, I think the fundamental and easy response is there is power in casual conversation. It was unintentional casual conversation. We came to Washington, D.C. to convene with our mentor, our friend, and our fearless leader, Dr. Jeanne Sinkford, in celebration of her retirement. And I use that word very loosely because she is truly redefining retirement. The day's agenda was not set. We met in the hotel lobby, hugged and exchanged just general hellos. And then among the many things that we could do here in the nation's capital, we decided to go to the National Portrait Museum. And what a special place that was for us. We've all heard the adage, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Every one of those portraits evoked a lot of emotion and response, and sometimes just silence. One of the first portraits that we saw, Michelle Obama. Secondly, we really pondered and lingered around the portraits of the Supreme Court, the women of the Supreme Court. And that's when we learned the age of Dr. Sinkford, which we had no idea. Look it up. She says she's the same age or born the same year as RBG. Anyway, we progressed to the area with the women's suffrage exhibit. And there were two pronounced revelations. One, and I will paraphrase, that white women have one handicap, and that is their sex. But women of color have two, double, and that is our sex and our gender. So, our race, I'm sorry. So with that, We went into an evening inspired by all of the portraits, and the casual conversation slowly drifted to minority women leaders and those women for oral health who have broken the glass ceiling and have made a difference in the oral health of our nation and beyond. I presented Dr. Sinkford with a little book about this thick, and it was a compilation of professionals up to that point who had made a difference in dentistry. Lo and behold, there was only one woman dentist featured in this compilation, none other than our own Dr. Sinkford. Dr. Sinkford, I don't think she had actually seen that publication. So our conversation broadened and deepened. We kind of went back and forth over different things. And mind you, we were supposed to be honoring Dr. Sinkford. And then all of a sudden we found ourselves talking about the potential proposal of how can we bring together a document that celebrates women who have made a difference in the health and well-being of our nation and again beyond. Dr. Sinkford would not let that conversation close with our one-day exhibit and lunch and dinner. She was the one who sparked us to come together for a series of teleconferences. In fact, today is a major celebration on your campus, but we can also celebrate a reunion between the three of us because we have not met personally since that day, which was a sun-kissed May Wednesday in 2019. A beautiful day, as is what we are experiencing here. So it's a twofold celebration for us, celebrating our reunion as friends and mentor and mentee coming together, but also celebrating all that you have done here on your historic campus. It is truly a pleasure to be here celebrating the past, the present, and the future. And may I just add one more thing, and I'm sorry if I got too talkative with that. Initially, the Undaunted Trailblazers was to include everyone except the three of us. We were adamant about that. In fact, one thing that our mentor taught us early on is the importance of not being self-serving, but being a servant leader, which she demonstrates to this day. However, our editor, Marita Engelhardt, she says, no, the three of you must be in this book. So Marilyn and I talked offline because we were really concerned about this, and we finally concluded if we don't do it, Dr. Sinkford will not put her story in this book. And the absence of Dr. Sinkford's story would make that book incomplete.
Yes.
So it was because of Marita's encouragement that all three of us put our stories there. And the subtitle, Minority Leaders for Oral Health, we were very meticulous about that because we wanted to make sure that that subtext was inclusive of the women leaders who have also been outside of dentistry.
Yes.
And as you may recall, those of you that have read the book, we have two women physicians that have been mighty forces in improving the oral health of our nation. So again, thank you very much for having us.
Well, that was just wonderful. I don't think any of us knew that story, and the fact that our mentor didn't want any of you all's stories to go in there. So that is truly amazing. Thank you for that. And I would like to direct the next question to Dr. Woolfolk. And for you, what do you think are the primary takeaways that you would like for readers to get from reading this book?
I have a, excuse me, I also wanted to say that the first thing that we would like to acknowledge is the 28 other women that contributed their stories. That's the essence of the book. Their compilation, their cooperation, and their willingness to candidly express things that we didn't know about them, things that other people probably did not know about them. And the power of sharing that information is what the book is about. So there are some of the contributors in the audience, and you know who you are, and we are eternally grateful for that contribution. You're busy people, and to try to carve out some time and get it to the specifications that we had required, we wanted to limit what we could get done in 2 years. I think that was the other thing that really limited us. And then I wanted to also say that there are so many other women that could have been featured, but we tried for a diversity of geography, accomplishment in various areas, research, teaching, practice, corporate dentistry. So that was what was our motivation. So as far as take-homes go, it's a historical document. We spent a lot of time trying to document the historical contributions of women since Ida B. Gray was the first woman to graduate with the DDS. And I'm particularly proud of that because she graduated from the University of Michigan. And so that distinction rings real bells with me. And but fast forward, it took a long time for others to follow in her footstep and make paths of their own. So from that, that's the take-home messages, the historical documentation. And then we wanted people to be inspired, as Dr. West had said, for the next generation of leaders. What lessons were learned? What can they take from that and bring into their own career? And we also saw the value as a leadership training tool for people that are interested in pushing women into the upper tier of leadership and can help identify talent. They have the power and they have the advocacy to push them along the way.
Absolutely. Thank you. Dr. Sinkford, this might be a tough one.
Okay.
Now, how would you respond to critics who might suggest that this book is only for women of color and only for women in education and not for women in general and certainly not for men?
Thank you. That's a great question. First of all, I would hope they would read the book. Okay? One of the major comments in that book was a friend of ours and a critique of ours. We didn't know it until we started work on the book, that we had individuals in the profession that were interested in women, but also were able to make a way for women where there was no way. So Dr. Paul Gates happened to be the individual that had mentored us, had criticized us so that we knew what they would be expecting from a book that was written about women. Okay, I had to convince him, first of all, that it wasn't about us. It was about the paths that we have had and the struggles that we've had. And it wasn't just our struggle, but it was males and for our race as well as our gender. It was a race and gender book. So we were hoping that they would read the book, they would get that from it, they would learn from it, and they would also begin to value the women that were working for them that they had not recognized. Okay, so if you read Gates's commentary in there, it's wonderful. Also, we had Dr. Louis Sullivan comment, and if anybody knows Dr. Sullivan, he talks for all of us, okay? He talks about medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, all the health professions, but he never leaves dentistry out of his discussions. And so he speaks for us when we don't have voice, when we're not at the table to speak. So that was, I think those are two very significant reasons why individuals that would criticize us, our critique would be related to why we didn't have more. But we wanted to include more. We wanted it to be publishable by the year 2000. Okay, that was 100 years.
2020.
2020. That was 100 years after the Women's Suffrage Act was passed. And that was one of the things that we had said, we will make this a document for minority women, even though we weren't that visible in that act. There were many minority women in the Women's Suffrage Act, but that didn't get credit for. So at least we have something that our children in the future can use. So those were comments.
Dr. Harper, may I also just re-emphasize what Dr. Sinkford has said? Threaded throughout many of the stories, our readers will see that our trailblazers actually acknowledge and celebrate the men who mentored them along the way, and I'm one of those. I would not be in dental education if it had not been for my male mentor, who introduced me, by the way, to Dr. Sinkford. Yes,
It's a
my
small
first
world.
woman mentor. Yes.
She happened to be at West Virginia, okay? There are no black people at West
Well,
Virginia.
true.
Okay.
Truly.
Seriously, and I have to
Except
tell
me.
you that, but her dean was interested in having a person there that could begin to break the barriers down. And he was lucky in finding you, but also he took her on as a challenge. He was going to make contacts that otherwise she would not have had, or information that, you know how we're excluded from information? You don't even know something has happened until it's over, and you weren't in it, and you didn't have a voice. So she has been a star there, and she still is very powerful there because there are no others to follow her.
Well, I can accept that only if you will accept the fact that you are my lifeline. When I call you, when I email you, you respond. But I have to say to ADEA also, that was the forum where my dean introduced me not only to Dr. Sinkford, but also to Dr. Gates, because he saw the value of networking and making sure that I had access to leaders that could help bring me through the pipeline.
Well, the power of mentorship.
It is.
That's all I can say. So I have something for all three of you, and maybe you want to start first, Dr. Woolfolk. What one piece of advice would you give women students and oral health professionals who are interested in academia and advancing through the dental leadership ranks to become a dean or other academic or clinical leader?
I have my thoughts, but I would first direct it to Dr. Sinkford because she was a dean and she would know. But I will say that the students that I work with, the most important thing that I tell them is you have to be your own self-advocate. You cannot depend on others. Others are interested in pushing you up the hill, but it's not always their primary interest. And you are the only one that can invest in your own future. And so that's what I usually tell them, that you're the CEO of your own corporation, and please invest wisely, and investing in yourself is one of the best things that you can do. So that's the advice. And you can use that in academia, you can use that in practice, you can use that in corporations. That self-advocacy is a very important piece, and you have to get the confidence behind who you are and move forward. And I also would say that Dr. West's comment about the book is a call to action for lots of people, and that would be something that if students read it, if they can see themselves in any of those stories, and I'm sure they can, because there are so many commonalities, that that is not a blueprint, because it's not a linear path. Sometimes you have to put it in neutral or maybe even reversed to go full throttle forward. But you really have to be persistent and have confidence in yourself.
That's great. Dr. Price.
I can piggyback on that and say, be yourself and believe in yourself. I think those are two important things, because it's really through our intrinsic motivation that we can overcome lots of challenges and hurdles in life. But in addition to that, something that I like to tell my students when they're first starting their dental education is the importance of using our hands, because dentistry is a hands-on profession, would all of you agree? Mm-hmm. I often say to use your dominant hand, which in my case is my right hand, to reach out and serve. This is a serving profession. And use your other hand to reach out and get the mentoring, the coaching, the advising, the assistance. Because when we reach out, there's always someone reaching back.
Very good.
I don't think I can add anything to what they've already said, except I think you have to like what yourself as well as what you think you want to do, because the work is so hard and it's consistent. You can't be a good dean one day and the next day not a dean, okay? And then there's so many people that depend on you. You have to know that you carry the weight of your family, you carry the weight of your school, you carry the weight of your profession, so that if you're not ready to begin to learn the skills that you need to do that, to speak for others that don't want you to speak for them, or to correct what they've said that undermines what you're trying to do, I think those are the people skills that you need, as well as the disciplinary skills, and also compassion for the people that you work for, so that they know that what you are asking for them is in a vision that will help you, help them, and help humanity. So I think that's a piece in there. And if you don't want to do that, then you need to find something else to do.
Well, thank you for that. So, you started this off, Dr. Price, with something that was really, really interesting and something that really touched you all as you were in that portrait gallery. And the reality, the realization that some women have two things that they have to deal with that might be barriers to them throughout life, their gender and their race. So as you went about writing this book and understanding that those barriers may still be there, and I see three of you all coming from different perspectives, different environments, one from a historically Black college and university setting with Dr. Sinkford, went to undergraduate and dental school at Howard, and you, Dr. Price, probably not the same kind of experience, nor you, Dr. Woolfolk. So in the writing that you did, as we talk about some of the experiences that both of you have had, is there any other bit of advice to go along with some that you've already given us about what it really means to have that double whammy and to still be able to be powerful and impactful and effective regardless of the environment that you're in?
Well, I can start a little bit talking about the rules for engagement on so many levels were tilted in favor of the majority. And the majority could be men, and you can also talk about racial, racial majority. What I distilled from all of the stories that were shared is that the women had to continuously contend with attempts by others to set boundaries for them. And I think that's what I experienced most, if I were to say that you repeatedly receive the subliminal messages that your aspirations are too high. The high school or college counselor or teacher who tried to discourage your ambition to be a professional. The banks that refused to give loans to allow you to start up a practice. The selection processes that were being manipulated and being a token in the applicant pool or the search pool, and some positions were already decided before you even interviewed. The employee that did not want to work for you, or the colleague did not want to work with you because they had other more important things to do, or they wanted to take credit for what you had done. That's another issue, but that could go on forever. The specialty that was tacitly reserved for men only, usually the higher paying or higher prestige specialties. The difference in the reward systems and the value points for publications versus service. That's in academia, but I'm sure there are other examples in the corporate world. It's okay, if you want to do the service, you be on this committee, but when it comes to assigning points for raises or promotions, we're not going to really value that as much as we're going to value some other things. So those are all parts of the infrastructure that tends to suppress women and minorities, and that things that we've had to contend with, and that we have, it's been an uphill battle, but you can see from the book that there are many, many examples of how people have risen, they've thrived, and they have left an impact that is everlasting.
Well, that's a short. You have something to add to that, Dr. Price?
I was going to say amen, first of all. But second of all, the common thread throughout, including Dr. Sinkford, is perseverance. Pressing through those severe, severing, piercing times. And by doing so, we not only persevered and advanced forward, but we grew better for it.
So Dr. Sinkford, yes.
My daughter asked me that question in a different way. Diane might not even remember. She said, "Mom, what did you learn from all of the disparities and the treatments that you?" And I said, "I learned to be a person. I learned to grow." Each of those steps, and she's done a beautiful job in telling you the structural barriers that we didn't even stop to look at, because if we had, we wouldn't have gotten where we were. So the beating that we took, the mental beating that we took in that process, made us look in a different way, because we had to be the positive forces in our environments. The other women were going through the same things. They had to look to us as examples that could be survivors. And that's what it amounted to. We were survivors in an environment that didn't recognize us, didn't pay us for one thing. I didn't find out, and I didn't even worry about the pay until later. And then I had to laugh at it all these years. The equal pay was one of the things that the white women were talking about, but we wanted to just get in the door. We wanted to be there so we could be in the discussion.
So that leads me to a question that I was going to ask you.
Okay.
How can women use the strategies and knowledge in the book to better map out their own careers in leadership and academia? Because from that, we got the strategies.
But that's a great question, and I'm going to take a minute to answer that, because the strategies that we looked at in the past are not going to work now, because we're talking about global health. We're talking about the ability to save the world now, because there is so much we are worried about disease, something that we aren't in control of. The first time our leaders are not in control of what's going to be the next step. And so we have to take little steps, but we have to take what we learned as it relates to trusting in people, being able to trust our research enterprise, number one, because the public is not safe with what they're getting about news. What is news? Is it good news? Is it bad news? Should I read the Wall Street Journal? Should I read the neighborhood? Or what news channel is even giving me the right news? So we start talking about how we use the strategies that we used in the past. I think there are things like trust, organization, how you build an organization so that it's built from the ground up rather than top down. Because top-down leadership is not going anyplace in the future, because you have to know what's happening on the ground floor. But I think those questions are really good, and it makes us think about how this book, how these women individually have used those strategies they haven't written about, and they need to write about it too, because that's the way we were able to survive what was our barriers and turn those barriers into opportunities.
Into opportunities. Isn't that the golden rule? And my goodness, just think we have 31 people that we can read about and see how they did exactly that with so many things that they had in common. So this time with you guys has gone way too fast. You know, we need to have them for a whole day. And we need to go to one of those museums, for heaven's sakes. But we're going to bring this to a close. I'm going to say thank you all so much for sharing this book with us and yourselves with us in every way. And now I think that we actually do have time for a couple of questions from the audience. You've heard a lot. You've learned a lot, no doubt. But if there's anyone that would like to ask your own personal question of these fabulous women while they're here, please feel free. The mic is set up.
Excellent topic, excellent presentation. My name is Dana Jackson. I'm on the chair at Howard University's Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery program at the dental school. And one comment about Jeanne Sinkford. Back in 1993, when I was appointed chair, I followed Thomas Pinson, who was the surgery chair. I was at 34 years of age. She appointed me chair of oral and maxillofacial surgery. And she told Dr. Pinson, as well as myself, we need to train more females. And to this date, the oral and maxillofacial surgery program has trained more females than any program in the country, regardless of race, as well as training more African-American males in any program in the country. So one person can make a difference, and I just, for Jeanne Sinkford, I love her so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
The other thing is we look at attacks on abortion rights, civil rights, and we talk about the fake news. Where do you see the future as far as women getting opportunities as we move forward in this very politically adverse atmosphere?
Do you want me to answer, or you want us? I think that we have already shown that, and other countries are ahead of us, by the way, in the leadership roles that women have already taken over, and we're seeing our ground roots growing because the women are already getting politically interested. They're going to vote, and we need to vote too, by the way. But I think they're very concerned about the academic programs in their schools. They are worried about what their students are learning and the ability to compete worldwide. We're in trouble as it relates to our ability in the science-based and technology basis when we're competing with other countries. So we really need to get on the board to see that our kids get into those programs, and those academic programs that are in our schools are evaluated across the board, so that the kid from Mississippi can compete with the kid from New York, for instance. And that's not happening in our schools. So I think we know what the problem is. We know that we need money to do this, and we can find monies to do other things, so we need to find monies also. But we need the boots on the ground to be sure that that happens in our communities.
Are there any other questions?
Not so much a question, but I just wanted to make a comment. I, of course, known Dr. Dean Sinkford for many, many years since I was a child. But the other two I don't know as well, and of course Dr. Harper. All four of you are trailblazers for sure. But I just wanted to say that, coming into the Howard University College of Dentistry, well, it was, you were a little nervous and a little scared. But what stood out in my mind was when we got there, and Dr. Sinkford was the dean, and it was her presence and her ability to lead and instruct us gave us all the confidence to be able to pursue this career. She had an open door policy, and she just never wanted you, or she didn't give you the ability to quit. And that was so important. And she also had the mindset to increase the amount of enrollment of women during her tenure. And I'm so appreciative because following you and others gave me the opportunity to be able to lead. And the one thing, Dr. Price, that you said was be yourself and believe in yourself. And that's what we got at the Howard University College of Dentistry under that leadership. And I just wanted to thank you, you today and the rest of you for this book. It's just so inspiring, and who knows, we may have a second one coming from you. So thank you so much.
Are there any other questions from the audience? Dean Jackson.
Well, I can't let this afternoon go by without, again, thanking you all for this wonderful occasion. And Dr. Sinkford, again, you know, you are responsible for most of us here in this room.
That's right.
And just to say that coming to Howard and seeing her as dean, it didn't seem unusual that couldn't be happening. So we grew up in an environment that was different from other places because we saw someone already that was dean and leading in such a magnificent way and making such a statement in dental education and healthcare throughout the world. So we're very, very appreciative of her and appreciative of both you, Dr. Price and Dr. Woolfolk, for coming here from your hometowns to be with us today, and Dr. Harper, always a supporter of the College of Dentistry. So we are very grateful for this opportunity, and this has turned out to be such a wonderful occasion, and I want to thank you all for being here. We have so many guests in the audience. Dr. Cheryl Lee, she didn't say who she was, but she's NDA president, National Dental Association. We have Dr. Coretta Cuffey, who is the president of Robert T. Freeman Dental Society here in Washington, D.C. We have Dr. Marshall Butler, who is here from Colgate-Palmolive. And we also have Dr. Karen Horace, who is here from Delta Dental. We're so thankful. And some of our staff, Ms. Romella Rogers, who's been a long-time member of the staff, and Mr. Richard Myers, both were on the staff when I was a student and are now here with us today. And so I just want to thank everyone for this wonderful occasion this afternoon.
Can I thank? I just can't let this close without thanking Dr. Barnes. She has been a life spark in the college, in the university. She works with all of the colleges in the Health Science Center, and she controls the library, and you know how important it is for information sharing and information. But also she's got a great helper right behind her, and she's very quiet too, Shelia Stokes. So with the two of them stand up and just, I really want to thank them. I don't know where we would be if we didn't have those individuals with that kind of mentality and talent to put together the articles and writings that we need to do in the future. So you're going to find some more articles coming from Howard University and its alumni, because she's going to be sure that we get the resources that we need to do that. Our stories are going to be told. Thank you.
And one more thanks. I'd like to thank the WHUT for working with us this afternoon, all the staff that put together this program, and of course, Dr. Barnes and Ms. Stokes. We are so grateful for you. You all are Energizer bunnies, and you all really made this work. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
We would be remiss if we didn't also thank Dr. Donna Grant Mills, who works also so tirelessly for all of us. Thank you, Donna. So that concludes our program. Thank you for being such an attentive audience. Thank you for your heartfelt remarks. And thank you again to these wonderful and amazing women who have shared everything they could with us. And they will leave their legacies, and they know it. And not only for this generation, but for generations that will come behind them. So thank you again, ladies.
Thank you.
That concludes our show.
Thank you for the opportunity.